Let me start with a question you probably don't want to answer honestly. If someone secretly recorded the way you talk throughout the day, not the polished version, not what you'd say in an interview, but the little comments, the sighs, the DMs, the voice notes, how much of it would just be complaining? People are so annoying. My boss is an idiot. Nothing ever works out for me. I'm so tired of this. Now imagine someone listen to that recording with no context. They don't know your history, your trauma, your intentions. They only know your words. What conclusion would they reach? Seriously think about it. Would they say this person is powerful, strategic, and in control of their life? Or would they quietly think, this person is constantly at the mercy of everything around them? That's the uncomfortable core of what we're talking about today. Because the moment you complain, you send a signal to your own brain, to the people listening, and to the people who might want to influence you. That signal is, I don't have control here. I'm being done to. And for someone who understands power, that sentence is like a flashing sign over your head that says, easy to steer. Machiavelli might not have used the word complaining the way we do, but he understood this dynamic crystal clear. In his world, the rulers that survived were not the ones who never suffered. They were the ones who knew how to suffer without broadcasting weakness to the wrong audience. A prince who constantly complained about his allies, his enemies, his citizens, his fate, would quickly lose the respect of everyone around him. People would smell instability, and unstable leaders are easy to manipulate, easy to push, easy to replace. Now, before we go further, let's clear one thing up. I'm not saying your pain doesn't matter. I'm not saying you should just shut up and bottle everything forever. I'm not saying you're weak for venting sometimes. You're human, life hits hard, you're allowed to hurt. What I'm saying is this: every time you complain automatically, especially in front of the wrong audience, you trade real power for momentary relief, and most people have no idea they're doing it. That's where the idea of Stoic power comes in. Not as in emotionless robot, but as in, I don't give my inner state away every time something annoys me. Let's peel this apart and turn it into something usable. Not a slogan, a skill. Start here. What actually happens when you complain? Picture a small irritation. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A coworker speaks over you. A friend takes forever to reply and then casually acts like nothing happened. There's a tiny spike of stress in your body. Your mind tags it as unfair, annoying, disrespectful. If you're like most people, your next move is to leak that feeling outward. You rant in your head. You drop a sarcastic line. You text someone. You will not believe what just happened. In that moment, it feels like release, a pressure valve. You're telling yourself, I'm just expressing how I feel. But here's the darker side of that. First, each time you do that, you reinforce the identity of someone things happen to. My boss always does this to me. People always treat me this way. Of course this would happen. It's me. Your nervous system starts to believe the script. You become the main character of a story where you are constantly victimized, constantly unlucky, constantly disrespected. And because your brain likes consistency, it starts paying even more attention to proof that this story is true. Second, people around you get information from your complaints, more than you think. If you complain to someone who's secretly jealous of you, you just gave them free emotional intel. They now know what gets under your skin. They know where you feel small. They know which situations leave you feeling helpless. If you complain to someone who might promote you or partner with you, you just branded yourself as someone who spends a lot of energy feeling wronged instead of feeling responsible. Machiavelli would say, why would anyone hand more power to a person who can't even govern their own reactions? A Stoic, on the other hand, would say, you cannot always choose what happens, but you always choose whether you rehearse it with your mouth. That's the core of this law. The more you complain, the more you are owned by the thing you're complaining about. owned by your boss, owned by the algorithm, owned by your ex, owned by your parents, owned by your past. So what does it look like to flip this? Not into toxic positivity, not into everything is fine denial mode, but into something Machiavellian and Stoic at the same time, a controlled inner state. Let's reframe complaining in a way that actually helps. When you feel that urge to complain, treat it as a notification, not a command, like a push notification that pops up saying, "Something feels off. Want to reclaim your power or give more of it away?" You might think that's dramatic, but honestly, it kind of is that simple. In the moment, you are choosing between two paths. Path 1, verbal discharge. Path 2, strategic response. Verbal discharge is saying everything you feel in the rawest, unedited way to whoever's around. It feels good for a moment. Then you either feel embarrassed, empty, or even more frustrated afterwards. Strategic response starts one level deeper. It sounds more like, "This sucks. Okay, what exactly am I complaining about? And is it something I can change, influence, or escape? Or is it something I just need to endure without making it my whole personality?" That tiny pause is the birth of Stoic power. Because you're not denying the feeling. You're deciding what to do with it. Machiavelli would approve of that, by the way. The rulers he respected weren't emotionless. They simply refused to make their internal storms public in a way that weakened their position. Let's get more practical. There are really three types of complaints. Complaints about things you can change. Complaints about things you can influence indirectly. Complaints about things you cannot change at all. Most of us mix all three into one soup and just throw it at whoever will listen. The Stoic Machiavellian move is to separate them. Let's go through them one by one. First, complaints about things you can change. I always procrastinate. My room is a mess. I never have time. I hate how I feel in my body. I'm always late. If you complain about these out loud regularly, you are basically telling the world, "I don't even command myself." People don't think that consciously, but they feel it. They hear you describing behaviors that are 100% under your control, but you're talking about them like weather, like they just happened to you. You don't need to feel ashamed if you've done that. Everyone does at some point. But this is where the law hits hardest. Every time you verbalize a weakness you're not actively fixing, you carve it deeper. The switch here is brutal but freeing. You either shut up about it or you start doing something about it. Not in a harsh, self-hating way. In a clean, "I'm the ruler here" way. Instead of saying, "I always procrastinate," you catch yourself and say in your head if you have to, "I've been procrastinating a lot, and that's on me. Today I'll do just the first 5 minutes of the thing." Instead of, "My life is such a mess," you go, "Okay, what is one small corner I can put in order today?" You're still acknowledging reality, but you're not worshiping your helplessness. You're putting the spotlight on your next move instead of your current misery. Second, complaints about things you can influence indirectly. "I hate this job, but I can't leave right now. My family is so negative. The culture here is toxic. People don't take me seriously." These are trickier. You can't flip a switch and change them overnight, but you're not completely powerless either. The Machiavellian Stoic approach here is, stop bleeding energy through complaining and start quietly building leverage. If you hate your job, complaining to your coworkers every day does nothing but brand you as ungrateful and bitter. A ruler who sits in the castle whining about the kingdom doesn't inspire anyone. Instead, you tighten your outward behavior. You become professional, steady, efficient. Meanwhile, in the background, you upskill, you network, you save money, you prepare exit options. You're not pretending to love it. You're just not making your frustration your personality. That's Stoic power. You hold your internal heat and you convert it into motion. Same with People don't take me seriously. You can complain about that for years. Or you can ask, what am I doing that makes it easy for people to treat me lightly? Is it the way you talk? The way you apologize? The way you overshare? The way you don't follow through? That question is painful, but that's also where your control lives. You don't announce, from now on, I demand respect. You slowly become more precise with your words, firmer with your boundaries, more consistent with your actions. Complaints turn into calibration. Third, complaints about things you cannot change at all. Your past, your childhood, the fact that time moves forward, random bad luck, people's private thoughts about you. There's a kind of complaint that is just mourning dressed up as outrage. This shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have had to go through that. And yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it really was unfair and cruel. I'm not here to argue that. But here's where Stoic power goes a little cold. The universe does not care how unfair something was. Only you do. And you have to decide what you're going to do with that pain. Machiavelli lived in a brutal world. People were betrayed, exiled, killed, forgotten. Stoics lived under emperors who could execute them on a whim. They did not have the luxury of thinking life should be fair. So they did something else. They separated pain from story. Pain says, this hurts. Story says, this means I'm doomed. This means I'm cursed. This means I'll never be okay. Complaining keeps the story alive. Stoic power lets the pain be real and kills the story. Not instantly, not magically, but intentionally. Instead of, my childhood ruined me, the shift is, my childhood hurt me deeply, and I'm the only one who can decide what I do with that now. Instead of, I'll always be broken because of what they did, it becomes, what they did was wrong. I will not let it define the next 40 years. No one's forcing you to go there. This is heavy, but if you're tired of being psychologically owned by people who aren't even in your life anymore, this is the doorway. Complaining about them keeps them alive inside you. Stoic power says, you're not invited to narrate my future. Now, all of this sounds great in theory, but let's talk about the actual moments where it counts. Picture your next bad day. You wake up late. Something goes wrong. Someone says something dismissive. You check your phone and something annoys you instantly. You're already on tilt. In that moment, your nervous system is screaming, please complain. Please blame something. Please find a target for this discomfort. You will feel that urge in your throat, in your fingers, in your desire to send a venting message. That is precisely where the law kicks in. The moment you complain, you are owned. Not forever, not dramatically, but for that moment you have chosen to be the echo, not the origin. So what do you do instead, practically? Here's a small, very simple pattern you can try. Step 1. Name it privately. Instead of exploding outward, say to yourself, I'm feeling disrespected, or I'm feeling powerless, or I'm feeling exhausted. It sounds small. It's not. Self-honesty without public performance is rare. Step 2. Ask, what's in my circle of control? Sounds stoic because it is. What's in your circle? Your tone of voice? Your next small action, your schedule for the next hour? What you choose to focus on? Whether you breathe or hold your breath, whether you doom scroll or step away. Pick one action that slightly favors your future self instead of feeding your current emotion. Step 3. If you still feel like you need to talk to someone, upgrade your complaining into either a request or a question. Not, everything sucks and I can't do anything, but I'm struggling with this specific thing. Can you help me think of options? Not, my life is a mess, but I'm overwhelmed. Can you help me break this down? The same mouth, the same situation, just framed in a way where you are still the main agent in your story, not just the victim. That's stoic power. You're not pretending to be unaffected. You're refusing to be theatrically helpless. Let's bring Machiavelli back into this for a second. If a ruler went around constantly telling his enemies and his people how overworked he was, how unfair everything felt, how much he hated his position, what would happen? His enemies would push harder. His allies would lose faith. His people would panic. The strong move was to process fear and frustration in very private, very limited spaces and show the world a version of himself that was calm, coherent, measured. Now, you're not a medieval prince, but people are still reading you like that. If you're always posting about how everything is against you, or always gossiping about how unfair things are, or always ranting to anyone who will listen, you might think you're just being real. What people actually see is someone who has not yet learned to govern themselves. And like it or not, we all subconsciously respect the people who govern themselves, not the fake perfect, the grounded, the person who says, yeah, things are rough right now, but I'm working on it. The person who doesn't explode every time something goes wrong. The person who doesn't drag everyone else into their emotional storm every single day. That person feels safe, stable, dangerous in a good way. If this feels a little confronting, that's okay. You might be realizing, damn, I complain a lot. Most people do. It's how we bond. It's how we feel seen. But you can evolve the way you bond without losing your humanity. Try this. Next time you're with someone and the conversation turns into a complaint spiral, experiment with a gentle pivot. Instead of adding another, yeah, and you know what else sucks. Say something like, yeah, that's rough. I've been trying to handle it by doing X. What about you? You're still validating them, but you're also subtly shifting from helplessness to strategy. Over time, people will start associating you not with drama, but with groundedness. That's magnetic. There's also a quieter benefit to all of this. When you complain less, you hear yourself more. Because there's less noise, you start to notice your deeper patterns. You notice that you complain about the same kind of person over and over. You notice that the same theme pops up in different situations. Not feeling chosen, not feeling respected, not feeling safe. Now, instead of saying everyone sucks, you can ask, why do I keep ending up here? What part of me is choosing, tolerating, or creating this? That question is heavy, but it's pure power. It's Machiavellian because you're no longer just reacting to the battlefield. You're designing how you show up on it. It's Stoic because you're more interested in your own role than in blaming the world. Let's also be real. There are some situations where complaining is all you have had for a long time, especially if you grew up without anyone protecting you, anyone listening, anyone stepping in. Complaining became your way of saying, I exist. This is not okay. If that's you, it makes sense. You adapted. Stoic war is not about shaming that part of you. It's about upgrading it. You don't have to abandon that little voice that says, this is wrong. You just give it a stronger body to live in. Instead of just screaming, this is wrong, while doing nothing, you start asking, this is wrong. So what do I want to build instead? Who do I need to become to not be trapped here forever? That's when you stop being owned by your environment and start owning your direction, even if the progress is slow and messy. Let me leave you with something simple you can actually remember. Next time you're tempted to complain, when something upsets you, ask yourself 3 questions. Is this under my control? If yes, what's one small move I can make instead of repeating the problem? If no, what's one way I can carry this with more dignity instead of broadcasting my powerlessness? And a bonus question, do I want to feel better for the next 5 minutes, or do I want to be stronger over the next 5 years? Complaining usually serves the 5 minutes. Stoic power serves the 5 years. You don't need to get this perfect. You will slip, you'll rant, you'll send that angry paragraph. You'll have days where you sound exactly like your old self. That's fine. You're not a machine. But if overall you start complaining less and choosing more, something will shift. People will feel it before you do. They'll talk about you differently. They'll bring you different kinds of opportunities. They'll try a little harder to impress you and a little less to provoke you, because you won't look so easily owned. And maybe the most important part, you'll hear your own voice differently. Instead of constantly replaying, "This isn't fair, this isn't fair," you'll start to hear a quieter, stronger sentence. "I don't like this, but I trust myself to do something with it." That's Machiavelli's law of Stoic power, hidden in everyday life. Not no emotions, not no struggles, not fake positivity, just this. The world doesn't get a free subscription to your complaints. It can watch your moves instead.